Hi and welcome to Healthy Life Hacks. I'm Jennifer Jefferies, the present-day wise woman, a realistic naturopath coming to you from the surfing beaches of Australia. This podcast is for those of you who are wanting to really rock your life and health and live from a place of prevention. Let's get into today's episode. I realized this morning that it's about to turn 10 years since I walked the Camino Way. And I thought I'd do a podcast on it. I haven't done a podcast on it. So for those of you who don't know, the Camino Way is a pilgrimage. It's an old pilgrimage across Spain, but there's many roads that lead to the one point. So the classic Way of St. James is from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in the south of France. Day one, you walk up over the Pyrenees Mountains, bloody stupid, and then you just keep heading west and you end up in Santiago de Compostela. So you end up in the city there in the cathedral. It is an old Catholic pilgrimage. I am not the Catholic girl. I am not a religious person. I'm a deeply spiritual person, but I'm not a religious person. And so the pilgrimage was originally kind of set up that if someone, wanted to sort out some of their sins, they would walk to Santiago, they'd walk from wherever, and I met people who'd walked from Poland and Russia and Italy and all over the world. So they can walk so many, it's classically a European pilgrimage. And so you walk and you get to Santiago, and then there you would get a shell. And that shell, I can't show you because mine is framed with my Compostela, my certificate to say I did it, but you get a shell which is only available or found in Galicia, which is that region of Spain, which is the end of the Camino. And they would walk home with that shell, and that shell would show that they'd been all the way. And ideally, in the perfect world, they've worked out all of their sins and headed home a better person. Nowadays, a pilgrimage is done for so many different reasons. For me, I wanted to do a physical challenge and see how and where I went emotionally. It is 10 years ago. So I was 53 when I walked it. No, 52 when I walked it. And, I went places I never saw that I was going to go. I was. And I thought I'd just touch base on it. So the pilgrimage, I trained. I knew it was. I originally heard about it when I read Shirley MacLaine's book on the way. It's known as The Way. And I read her book in the year 2000. And I went, wow, I want to do that. I want to walk across Spain. It is an 800 plus kilometer walk, 500 miles from the south of France to Santiago. And then if you choose to go out to the ocean, it's another 100 Ks after that. And most people do it. It's recommended to be done in no less than 35 days. And that's a solid walking kind of pace. Some people run it, some people cycle it. It doesn't matter. Your Camino is your Camino, which is what I want to talk to. So I heard about in the year 2000. I thought, wow, I want to do that. And different times it'd kind of sneak back into my brain and do that. Oh, you're going to walk the Camino? And I went, no, not yet. Anyway, the start of 2014, like in that January, I thought, I'm ready. It's time. I want to walk the Camino. And I started walking to train for it. I had never, I'm not a hiker. I had never hiked. I'd never done a big walk. I'd never done anything like that. And it works out to, 800-900 Ks. I thought, well, to fit it in between, I had busy traveling life as a professional speaker. And I thought, okay, so I kind of had about 30 days to be able to do it in, to give myself traveling time to and from Australia, to be able to fit it in comfortably. And I thought, well, 900 Ks, 30 Ks a day, I can walk that. That's easy. And you carry your backpack and you're off and going. So planned it all out, started training for it, had my boots broken in, had my hiking sandals broken in, everything's ready to go. Off I go. So I headed off the start of June with the plan to walk through the whole of June, and arrived in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, flew into Paris and trained down, and then down to the South France. And day one, for real, you walk up over the Pyrenees Mountains. It is So you're not rock climbing, you're walking up, roads and trails. And it's a very well-walked pilgrimage. But so many people get injured on day one, and it's not even the walk up, it's the walk down. It takes, like 5-6 hours to get up to the top of the mountains, and halfway up over the top of the mountains, it becomes Spain, not France. They're like the borderline. And then you're walking down, and so many people, you're really physically and emotionally fatigued on the way down, and so many people do ankles and knees and things on the way down. But anyway, you do day one, and everything is sore. Doesn't matter how much you prep for it, everything is sore. You're sleeping in a dormitory. I slept in a dormitory with 300 people that night. I've never slept in a dormitory. Well, I guess in the army. But you sleep in a dormitory with hundreds of people. I had never slept in a bunk bed. I fell out of bed. I did. The first night, I fell out of bed, hit the floor. I didn't know how to sleep in a bunk bed. But when I got to the accommodation, that was one of the last beds left. So I was grateful to have a bed. Anyway, fell out of bed, bruised my hand. And it was really funny the next day walking on the Camino. People would say, "Did you hear about that Aussie who fell out of bed?" I'm going, "Nah, really? Bloody silly bugger. How'd they do that?" I didn't let on that it was me, but it was me. I fell out of bed on the day one of the Camino. Anyway, that all got going. And you just walk. So I had my plan, and the normal routine, if you haven't walked the Camino, the normal thing is, and I walked through early summer in Spain, and it's light at 4:35 a.m. and most people, the albergue is stirring, and most people want to walk so that you're walking before the big heat of the day comes through. And June, when I walked, was the end of the wet season. So May is quite wet. I chose to walk in June, but it tended to be, it's a hot, dry kind of month. So off I go. You'd wake up in the morning, people are starting to stir. You're in a dormitory. So you're always awake 4:30, and you literally just wake up in the morning, you put on your boots and your backpack, and you walk. Somewhere down the road, you find something for breakfast. I chose to live the life of a pilgrim. So I very much had the pilgrim's breakfasts, lunches and dinners. I chose to go that way well and truly the majority of the time. A pilgrim's breakfast was coffee or juice with a chocolate croissant. And on day one, you think, wow, that's cool. Trust me, I never want to see another chocolate croissant in my life, or a potato frittata. And again, the day you find that for the first time, it's like, oh, excellent. And then I can't eat a potato frittata or a potato bake or anything like that. Just you do that for a month, yeah, you're over it. So anyway, that's kind of thing. And then classically, most people, morning tea and lunch will consist of a dry bread, white bread baguette. And I'm the biggest anti-white bread person on the planet, but I wanted to do the Pilgrim's Way. And it will have cheese and ham on. So imagine dry cheese and ham on a dry, not a fluffy white baguette. And it's energy food to help you walk. So that was my typical either morning tea, lunch. You grabbed, if you saw a fruit or something on the side of the road at a farmer's place, you'd grab something like that and off you go. And then dinner that night is, depending what was around the accommodation, they'd have pilgrim's meals, which were about 10 euros. And it was usually, again, white bread, a stew or something like that, or ensalada, which was always iceberg lettuce, a half a tomato, a couple of spears of like tinned white bleached out asparagus. That was the ensalada, the classic salad, pilgrim salad, and red wine. Red wine was with everything. You got free red wine with, or was part of the meal, lunch and dinner. So, and then you go to bed. Like you'd walk through the day. Some days 30 Ks would take 4 hours if it was just on the flat, or it could take 8 or 10 hours some days if you were up and over hills and mountains and things. So day 3, day 1, day 2, day 3, off I'm going. About day 3, I was this side of Pamplona, where they do the running of the bulls. They run the bulls in all the towns, but the biggest one that it's known for is Pamplona. And coming into town, I I heard this, you know, that song, and I will walk 500 miles and I will walk 500 more. So that song, the Camino, is 500 miles. And who was singing it was these three bloody legendary young lads from Oregon in the US, college boys. And they were doing the have fun drinking kind of Camino, not my kind. But we met up, maybe we were maybe 10 Ks or so outside of Pamplona. And yeah, it would have been because I'd stayed in an albergue just outside of Pamplona the night before and was walking in the next morning into Pamplona and was going to bypass the big town to stay on the other side the next night. And so we're walking into Pamplona and these guys come up behind me and they were a bloody hoot. And I'm like, yeah, I want to walk with you guys. So off I go. The thing is, I had my plan. I had my plan to walk the Camino in a certain way that I thought physically my body could deal with it. In that the moment of craziness that we get to, which is all part of what the Camino is about, because it's just a reflection of what life is, I went off my path. My path was to walk the Camino in a certain way. I went off my path. And all of a sudden, I'm walking the pace of 18-year-old university guys, and I was in my early 50s. The reality is I cooked my feet. That night, I had my first blister, and I remember it being a really big blood blister on the back of my right heel, and it was about 1.5 inches across, this big full blood blisters. I didn't get regular blisters, I got blood blisters. And that started it. My boots were broken in, all those kind of things. Didn't matter. My feet were cooked. And every day it was like a new discovery of how bad my feet could get. I went off my path. I knew what I wanted to do. And it's so easy in life to get distracted by the next bright, shiny thing. The young lads who are having more fun, seemingly more fun, racing towards Santiago, all those kind of things. Life takes us on. Well, life gives us opportunities to go off track. And then the choices we make at any given time keep us on our path or take us off track. I went off track to the detriment of my feet. And I walked a couple of days with these guys, and look, we had a hoot. It was bloody excellent. However, I smashed my feet and paid for it the rest of the Camino. I had a finite amount of days to be able to walk the Camino, and it was tough. About halfway, and cry thinking of it, halfway through, I had one day where my feet were just so fucking bad, it was a joke. I had got rid of my boots, a week earlier. I just can't walk in boots. And I was walking in hiking sandals and socks, and you strap your feet, there's all the theories on how to manage your feet properly when you walk in the Camino. But my feet were kind of past the point of no repair. And I remember one day I'd stayed in this albergue Verde, they called it. It was in this little town in the middle of nowhere. And walking in the heat of summer, I didn't see green grass. You're walking through, farms and rolling hills of crops and things, but I never saw green grass. And I was walking into this town, I can't even remember its name now, somewhere I'd been, walking a couple of weeks by this time. And I walked into this town, and the owner of the albergue, I stayed there because it was called Albergue Verde. Verde means green. And I went, grass. And I just wanted to lay down on the grass and look up at the blue sky. It's all I wanted to do. I was craving green. Anyway, I stayed at that albergue that night, and it was great accommodation, and it was green and everything. And before I went to bed, because I was getting up early, to start walking the next morning, the owner pulled me aside and he said, Jen, you can't walk. Your feet are broken. And I went, yeah, I can walk. And he said, Jen, you can't walk. Your feet are broken. And I went, I can walk. It's like, I'm a stubborn shit. Don't tell me I can't. I'm crying thinking about it. It was huge. Anyway, I walked. And I reached a point, I don't know, an hour or two later, that my feet were broken. I honestly couldn't take a fucking step. And I cut my feet. My feet were so swollen and horrible. I cut my shoes to get to get them off. And I'm crying right now. I apologize. The thing was, I was about 10 Ks from the next town. So I was out in the middle of bloody nowhere. My phone, I had made it to be just a phone. I'd taken everything else. It was a phone and a camera. I'd taken everything else off it so that I really could. I wanted to do this thing that I just test my brain how I could go doing something physical. And I'm in the middle of nowhere. And the pilgrims everyone charges off early in the morning. And I was behind the pack, so far behind the pack that there wasn't people on the road that day that were gonna, and it was out in this farming area that was just dirt paths and rolling hills as far as you could see. And there wasn't like stragglers who were gonna catch up to me. I was really out there on the end of a day's walk and about 10 Ks from town. And out in the middle of there, like your phone doesn't work. And I was just like, fuck me, what do I do? And cut my shoes off and just, I can feel it and I can see it. Just thinking, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I went, you know what? I'm safe. I know I'm safe. But I knew all I could do was to take a step. Just take a step. And then I would think about the next step. I couldn't think about the 10 Ks ahead of me. I just couldn't. It's the midday sun and it's hot and all that stuff. I had enough water with me. That was all cool. But I could not think of the fact that I had about 10 Ks to go to get to the next town. All I could think was, I have to take a step. And I did. And then I take a breath and I took the next step. And I completed that day's walk one step at a time, really mindfully, one step at a time. And I just kept telling myself, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. And I got such a knowing in me that day that I am safe in life. But I went to such a deep level of trust. And it's not a religious thing. It's not even a spiritual thing. It's just a trust that if I just keep moving, it doesn't matter how slow, I can get anywhere. I can do anything, but I just have to keep moving at the pace that I can go at. Up till then, I had charged through life. I really had. I have achieved insane shit through my life, but I've charged through life. And the Camino shoved it in my face when I went to do the same pattern again by following these young lads from Oregon. And it's not an age thing. It's not an anything. I had my plan. I knew what I wanted to do. Execute that. It's so easy to get taken off track on other people's journeys and other people's ideas and all these kind of things instead of trusting your intuition and working your plan for life. And I got at that wall kicking moment where all I could do was to have faith that I could step the next step and then that next step. Like that guy at Albergue Verde had said, my feet were broken. Just blistered up like you couldn't believe. And I just kept going. So I ended up completing the Camino and so many adventures, just some of the coolest experiences of my life, meeting some of the most amazing characters in my life. I remember in the last week of the Camino, I met an 80-odd-year-old Franciscan nun from Australia. She had been a nun for over 60 years. And so to kind of celebrate that, she was given a year off to do what she wanted. And she chose to walk all the pilgrimages. Wonderful woman. And I walked with her for a couple of days and we just chatted. It rained, it was cold. By the time we got to that part in that last week of the Camino, glaciers very wet, and eucalyptus forests and mosses and all those kind of things. Beautiful. But she did her Camino. She didn't do any of the hills. She did all the flat parts, and she'd bus from town to town to skip the hills. I loved it. I remember the first day I saw anyone on a push bike, I thought, they're fucking cheating. You don't do that. You got to walk the Camino. And I just got so many life lessons. It's like everyone gets to walk their path, their way. That's it. They do. There's no right or wrong for anything in life. We all get to do our best. We all get to make choices and live life how we want to do it. So for me, the Camino was a huge turning point in my life. I learned some amazing, wonderful lessons. And it's 10 years ago. In a couple of weeks' time, it'll be 10 years ago that I set off. And you don't have to walk the Camino, but do something, do whatever it is you're called to do to challenge yourself, because it's not the physical, it's the emotional growth and stuff that you get out of it. The Camino is amazing. From walking one side of a country to the other side of the country, across Spain it was a very cool life experience. I'd love to drive it. There's so many amazing things. Every bridge, every road's a bloody Roman road. Everything's thousands of years old. It's all medieval. Like, you go through the most amazing places in the middle of nowhere. But I got what I wanted from the Camino. I wanted to go there and see what my brain would do. And it was almost like a rites of passage for me, helping set up the second half of my life. And yeah, so I wanted to share this story because I got to struggle because I didn't listen to my intuition, and I kept repeating patterns like I had in my life that hadn't worked for me in the past. The whole just charging ahead, and as much as that's fun at the time, there's a price to pay. And I didn't follow my plan. I let myself get taken off track by others. I was 100% responsible. They weren't. They were doing their Camino their way. I let myself get taken off track. My journey, my way. So whatever it is in life, I guess the healthy life hack is to learn to trust yourself, trust the process of the universe or God, whatever you want to call it, and live your life. Do your best every damn day, and see where you can challenge yourself. You don't have to walk 800 Ks across a country, but where can you challenge yourself to grow? Because the stuff I got out of that 1 month of my life was huge on so many cool levels. Just an amazing experience. So I share it. There may be something in it for you. There may be not. I trust. I'm doing my best, and it called to me today to share that story. It's remember to live your life your way. Have a look at everything that's out there, but live your life your way and your pace. I want to thank you for being here today. If you enjoyed my podcast, please let me know by leaving a review on Apple Podcast. Every month, I draw one lucky person who leaves a review on Apple Podcasts to have a free 1-hour consultation with me. Be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you're tuning in from so that you always catch the next episode. And if you would like to receive a free copy of my Feed Your Body ebook, simply click the link in the comments below. Join my newsletter and we will get that free ebook sent to you. I welcome your emails, and you can write to me at podcast@healthylifehacks.com.au. Until next time, remember, when it comes to life, live it, love it, and get on with it.